Welcome, everyone, to the official debate section.
I'm Kristen Welker of NBC News, and I welcome you. Tonight's debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. It is conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Commission's health security advisor.
All right, so we're safe with all of these debates. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Incendiary. We are so glad you're with us. And also with us, in addition to those in the chat, and we thank you for being here, is Narwhal, Narwhalio. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. We're glad you're here. So tonight's debate is it's going to be fun, I think. And what we'll do is, because Blue's not here and because the topic came from Bandito himself, we'll let him set us up.
Oh, threw me a curveball. All right.
Gotta keep you on your toes.
I've been seeing all these clips on all these YouTube shorts that are talking about how the word woke came from the Black community initially, and it was just mean that you were coming into a place of being enlightened and that type of stuff. But then, of course, some white girl heard it and decided that they were going to repeat it at all their parties to sound super jazzy and cool. So I don't know, just kind of as we're kind of thinking what could be the topic, and we have Velma making all kinds of headlines lately, and we have a Velma who, of course, has kind of bastardized the detective dog that she gets to chum around with, and then we have Narwhal, Narwhalio, who he's throwing his hat into the ring for next best canine detective.
Oh yeah.
So
see, it really was a tie-in.
There we go. Right?
Mine isn't woke either.
No. Oh my goodness. Well, don't let Velma hear about it. Yeah, and I didn't know I was going to have to intro this, but I mean, yeah, eventually, if you let me talk long enough, I'll tie it all together.
So here's a clip from a couple of weeks ago that was very poignant. So let's just listen to this one for a second. Oh, here we go. Jay's already put up his idea on it. Depends on what's being gate kept.
That's a good point.
Quality, yes.
Well,
so
if it's not quality, I think that kind of makes the choice for it because nobody will stand up for it, right? No one's going to try and hold on to what is there. So
right,
kind of makes its own.
You say that, and then Velma gets a season 2. So,
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh, he's shots fired already.
So Velma getting a season 2 is almost mysterious, you could say, almost.
But is it? Now that we know the woke culture, that really is a debate now. Is wokeism? Do we know the reason, the why? Is it really a mystery anymore?
Yeah. One will be more black-pilled, more like it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
You know?
So the question is, do we know why they do what they do? Like, is it really a mystery anymore? Or is it still up for debate as to why the things that are happening are happening?
So, Jake, why don't you set us up before the debate gets going?
Sure thing. So, Narwhalio, since you are our guest, you get to choose which side of the debate you want to be on. Do you want to be on the is it a mystery side, or it is no longer a mystery?
I kind of think the mystery side's harder, and I'm a little more interested in that, but I'll take the easier potentially one.
Okay, fair enough. You know, easy points. Sometimes you got to take them.
I'll take SmilingBandito as my debate buddy.
Ooh.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So Dojo,
so you're stuck with explaining why it's still a mystery.
Why wokeism is still a mystery. Shit, this is going to be a fun one. But
I have a couple ways I can help you out, even though I'm a moderator.
But yeah, you'll be moderating this time around. But since you've basically already picked Bandito to be on your side, we know that this is going to be a handicap match. Yuck, 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 yuck. And so off we go. You guys will debate on it's not a mystery any longer, and I'll be like, yeah, it's still a fucking mystery to me.
We'll put Dojo comfortably on your side on this one. He can moderate a little bit if he wants to kind of push the conversation forward, but
sure.
We can go back and forth. At this point in time, we're all adults. We can moderate ourselves a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, and
So-
I feel like this is like a fun debate because nobody cares. We're not debating woke assholes that you can't even hear them and they'll smear you and cancel you or whatever. And
Oh, right. Yeah, we try to pick hot topics, but not ones that are going to, be over controversial and cause us to get struck or whatever. Hey, we've got Kami Mark in the chat. How you doing, Kami Mark? Good to see you.
what's up, Kami Mark? What
He
up?
says, "Hail
Great to have-
Dojo," saying hi to all of us.
That's right. Really, he just wanted to get to that one line. Hail the spam.
Right. Okay, so to begin our debate, we're going to, of course, go with our guest. And Narwhal, you can tell us why you feel it is no longer a mystery.
Okay. Yeah, you told me the topic like an hour ago, so I molded a little bit, and I have, I guess, like an opening statement kind of thing. And
All
it's
right.
that
I love it when I get to work with somebody who comes prepared. Oh my goodness. You have no idea. You have no idea, Narwhal. I mean, not to disparage anybody here, but
yeah,
Sure.
you're welcome.
I'll
But
just be over here in my corner.
don't count your eggs before they hatch either. Don't put much pressure on them. But I was going to say that if it is a mystery, I think that would come from the reasons. There would be like a lot of reasons, and it's just convoluted, and that kind of creates the mystery because anyone can pick 1,000 reasons. That's not too hard. They're out there, but picking the one true reason is a lot harder. And that would be more like in support of that it's not a mystery, is if you have one really strong reason rather than a bunch of just okay reasons or whatever. So the one really strong reason I was thinking is like it's this kind of tied to like Marxism and color revolutions, and even like color revolutions leading to the ultimate goal of led by a global elite class that wants a one world government that may or may not be satanic. And if they are satanic, then it's not really Marxism. It's like way worse than Marxism. Marxism is just like too easy a word for it. And so that's the big reason, I think. So
Wow, Jake. So what do you say to that?
Oh man,
That
everything I
was
agree
deep.
with. So I believe the wokeness is still a mystery because for some reason people just still seem to be talking about it. Like if we understood it, we would be able to get past by it by now. We wouldn't be having a bunch of hens clucking on a panel in the middle of the day talking about wokeness if it wasn't still necessary and if it wasn't part of a movement that needs to be pushed. There's a bunch of different. Oh, hey, Kami.
Jake gets thrown off his game by a little celebrity status in the panel or in the
Right.
in the comments.
But so yeah, I think it's still a mystery because, like he said, there's a bunch of different finite ways that you could take the angle. Like, is it going to be, part of the alphabet kids, or is it going to be part of, radical racism? And honestly, none of it is ever going to die. I don't think any of this kind of stuff is going to die out, which means it's always going to come back and always be in front of people, even though they want to put it in the back of their mind. With the way things are going now, they're wanting to push it into schools and everything, so it will be part of your conscience. And there's no way to escape it unless you push back on it. And I don't see enough pushback being taking place.
Okay, Bandito, what do you think?
So I think part of the problem is that different people have different reasons necessarily behind it. And like you do have some people that are specifically opportunistic, and we see this on no matter what activity or whatever they're trying to push forward or get on board with. They might not even agree with it, but they'll just argue for it or against it based upon what they think what opportunity is available. And so because of that, I think you get to a point where the waters can be muddied. However, eventually you're able to find out what the you're able to pull back the hood, just like at the end of, a Scooby-Doo mystery. And it's like, oh, you realized who it was all along, right? Like it's not the mystery kind of gets built up around it, which kind of plays to their hand. But ultimately, it really does come down to very simple things that once you uncover it, it's like, oh, well, of course it was that. So I think you can fool people, for a time, but you can't fool everybody all the time. So yeah, I'll leave it at that and let you jump in here, Dojo.
Yeah. So for my take on that, I agree with that partially, and that is that, pulling back the hood really makes a big difference. Speaking specifically to Velma, I think that there's a number of people out there who are starting to speculate that Velma was made as bad as it was on purpose because they wanted us to talk about it like we are now. They want all of the thousands and thousands of people out there hate watching it because no publicity is bad publicity. And if they can get us all to hate it enough to talk about it ad nauseum, the advertisers are looking at that as opportunity. And that kind of goes back to what you were saying about opportunistic people. I took this to a personal level too. And, no surprise, as a fan of She-Hulk, I watched the whole series, all 9 episodes, and I was unhappy with it. However, I do remember that when some people were speculating about, why was it the way it was and cringy, etc., I believe it was either the director or the producer said, we were doing that on purpose to troll the fans. It was meant to be tongue-in-cheek and fun. So what I did was, with that in mind, I went back and watched the whole thing and tried to take it as if it was on purpose making fun of me, because I can laugh at myself and my own geekdom and fandom and all that. And taking it with that in mind, I enjoyed the series far more, knowing that that was their intent, to be cringy on purpose, not to be cringy because they're just dumb and don't know the audience.
Okay, so how does that so do you think then that creates more of a mystery as to why they're doing what they're doing?
I think so. I think that because it wasn't set up front, and maybe even the person who had revealed it did so, out of turn. But as we were going through all of those 9 episodes, a couple of them got better toward the end. But at the beginning, we were like incredulous as, She-Hulk fans as to how, I'll use the term, how woke it was. And it was like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. She thinks she deals with anger infinitely more than the Incredible Hulk. Are you? So, looking at it, not understanding that may have been the joke on purpose,
right,
made it pretty mysterious, and it made us talk about it throughout the whole show.
And we are getting more and more commentary on people saying, I love the show because it will give me endless amounts of content.
Oh yeah,
right?
That's crazy. That's funny.
So,
the hate watching and stuff.
All the hate watching, right? And people are saying, I love this show. Like, who was it? Like the biggest YouTubers are saying things like Asmund Gold was saying, he hopes Velma gets a season 2 because he will farm the crap out of that shit.
Right.
So,
and that's like when Rush Limbaugh said, when a Democrat's in office, that's gold to me.
So you think that they've picked up our game? You think that they've picked up on our, because we used to brag about, all the content we got to make. So now is it flipped again and they're farming us?
Yeah. And one more thing to add to that too is, who's the girl who transitioned? So she's Elliot Page now. There was rumors for a second that James Gunn was going to cast Elliot Page as the new Superman.
Yes.
and that got me. I was thinking, let's do it just because I want to see how low we can go, because it's funny at this point. And that's kind of too, we're at like a point now where what you guys are all talking about, it's almost like post-wokeism, where it's not real legit wokeism. It's like self-aware wokeism that's doing it on purpose to try and make more money for marketing on both sides. This machine that's going. one thing, it wasn't always post-wokeism, because one thing Bionic Bruh said is like, it's not going away. And I can kind of see that, and just because it's you talk to a lot of people that are like, it's been here the whole time. Like there's a guy in CG who worked in comics in the 80s, and he was pointing out all this stuff was happening then, but it was just way smaller. And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And there's stuff on campuses back in the 80s and even earlier.
Always, yeah.
Yeah, so just the fact it's always been around, that could almost be an argument potentially for understanding it, that it's not a mystery, is one, to identify that it's post-wokeism now, that it's been around forever, so we do kind of know what it is. You kind of know it when you see it. And one last little thing I wanted to point out is, with my theory that it's satanic elites pushing everything, is that it kind of ties, like, I actually like focusing more on just art and entertainment, because that is a really interesting situation we're in, where the entertainment's really bad right now. It's hard to find good stuff on TV or anything, and it's kind of a sadness or whatever. But I do think it's interesting that the culture war gets tied, multiple things get tied together, where you take on multiple opinions at once if you become woke. And one of the weird ones is like, woke people were super into masks and super into vaccines and super into lockdowns, which is all this like pro big government stuff. And then they're also into like Velma, like it's a weird connection.
That is a weird dichotomy. One of the things you were just talking about is the post-wokeism, and how they are going for, how much lower can it go? I was thinking about that before the show too. I think that in many instances, you either have to have the greatest next show ever to be published or produced, or you've got to try to outwoke the last guy. So I think that that's what they're doing. It because if you don't outwoke the last time there was some, a wild thing that was put on, you're not going to be mentioned. You're going to be mentioned if you can make it even more cringy than the last story. So you either have to do absolute freaking gold that everyone in the world's going to want, or you've got to do absolute freaking trash that everyone's going to want to talk about.
Well, and we know that, like, how difficult is it for anybody on YouTube just to get above the noise, right? Like, we know we're all in the same game. We all know that you have to hack the system. You have to use every piece of leverage that you got. And you also have to play to the people that are you have to play to the people who are going to be watching because they want to support you. And you have to attract the eyes of people who might not ever hear about you. And in order to do that, I can understand where, they're struggling with the same thing, right? And we're trying to get just a few thousand people to get eyes on something that we're creating. They have to get millions, right? They have to do that, or else, they have entire industries that collapse around them. Right. So, it's interesting, but I don't know. I think all of that shows that it's not really that much of a mystery. As soon as you start kind of poking at it, the whole thing starts to fall apart on them. Like, there isn't, they have the smoke and mirrors, and I think they're trying to fool us, right? But their hubris doesn't allow them to keep it under wraps, to play it close to the chest. Like, they do want to brag about how they were trolling us on She-Hulk. One of the comments that she made was, it's crazy how predictable the haters are, because we were able to put in their comments that they didn't make until after the show was aired. Right? So they were able to put in their people's comments in the show that, the trolls didn't give until the show actually aired. So, they want that as well. They want to be able to say, we got you, which, I don't know, maybe this is like a shift in our culture, right? Like, the troll culture used to be like, there was some absolute legends in the past that we know of, like the guy who sold the Eiffel Tower twice, right? He sold it, even though it's a national monument, he sold it convincingly to two different buyers.
There was also the guy who did the painting that once purchased shredded itself.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's a huge troll.
Yeah. And that's much more recently. And then of course we have Banksy, who like got to start by sneaking in and hiding pieces of artwork in actual museums that people thought were actual pieces on display.
Oh,
right.
Yes.
Yeah, like a
Banana
pencil
taped
on
to
the
the wall.
floor or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Or like he did an oil can as a children's soup, and they thought it was similar enough to like an Andy Warhol type thing that they thought it was a legit. It stayed there for like 3 weeks or something. Like nobody in the museum even noticed. So, we do have these legends in the past, but it could be now like the culture has shifted so much that these people have actually moved into and become the establishment. And they themselves are totally fine, just as Banksy's like, no fucks given. He's just going to do what he wants to do, and he's going to privately laugh about it. This has actually become, instead of just being a fringe or a singular entity kind of working on their own to do this, it could be like enough people are getting together, it's now the establishment.
As soon as they realize they are the establishment, they're going to have an aneurysm, because that's what they're against.
Well, one problem though is that none of these guys logically got themselves into the perspectives that they have, right? Like none of these people have logically come to the conclusions that they have. It's all about the things that they feel. So logic is
never dropping on the train. I mean, everybody wants to be part of it.
Logic is not going to affect them in any way, shape, or form going forward. So, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, Jake, you've kind of been sitting over there in the corner.
It's really hard to argue when you may or may not agree with the other side, but
Uh-oh, is it time?
might be.
Okay, here we go. We have to preface it like that, Narwhal, because sometimes we are tasked with arguing against the side we agree with.
We've had a couple people in the chat being like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So the why of wokeism, I mean, honestly, I'll give it to you guys. It shouldn't be there, but it really is why is it still there? Like, why can't we move past it? What is keeping it from actually being able to just die out? And we've already made this point. It's like it's part of a movement coming out of Hollywood, and I think it's power play just for that one reason. It's not like they actually give a shit. It's to pander. It's to gain influence and
So we know that's on the larger scale.
yeah.
But when we come down to more our level, and we're just walking amongst the common people. Why do, like, neighbor to neighbor, why did they fluctuate between having wokeism as a hot topic or not?
I think it's only a hot thing between neighbors when they have to quiet down to talk about it.
Oh, yeah, good point. I think, too, a lot of times when you're talking about down here among the weeds with the common man, it's at that point, it's clout chasing. If I can be extra incendiary, maybe I'll get a few more clicks or views or get up to that monetization.
Right.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of clout chasing or just simply needing to validate themselves as well. Right.
Yeah. So
there's a sense of always having to be on the right side of an argument. And I mean, just like I was saying before, it was never logic that kind of got them where they were. They just picked a side. Right. Mm-hmm. And because logic didn't get them into it, logic isn't going to get them out of it. So there isn't any argument that you can give them to change that view. So I guess, on the flip side of it, I mean, if Jake's going to change sides, maybe I can too. The idea of not really knowing what it is when you get into it, I think makes it difficult for the people on the woke side to actually know what it is they're even fighting for. So I think on our side, there isn't any mystery. We know full well why we're doing it, why they're doing it. These woke companies, we know why there's Gay Pride Month. We know why, they decide that they're going to be super inclusive for, a month where they change all their logos. We know that that's a massive part of their marketing, and they have to do it. If they don't do it, then they get targeted as having not done it, right? So we know that there's a massive part on the corporate side as to why they're doing it that has nothing to do with it, what the activists are doing. And we know why our entertainment has turned this way. We know that they need to distract us from all the bullshit that they're doing, right? Because they're the ones that created the casting couch. They're the ones that have kept silent when they knew what problems were running rampant within their own industry, that are still running rampant, that they're still trying to keep quiet, right? And so they're trying to turn us against each other so that we don't even turn on them, right? Join together to turn on them. So we know why they're doing it. But by the time it gets down to the people who are just watching the entertainment or are wanting to support these corporations or are trying to be validated themselves, I think they end up having a hard time figuring out why the fuck they're even doing it. So I think for them, it's a mystery.
Yeah, on that note, that reminds me, I agree, and it's interesting because you see on Twitter, the woke side, they'll often say what even is woke? It's not even a thing. It's not real. Can you even define it? It's kind of a gaslighting type thing. But to them, that's sort of real, where their wokeness is so baseline to their reality. They've been so brainwashed that it's not really a thing to them.
Yeah.
Happened with Heidi McDonald, tweeted that at Ethan. And Ethan gave a response that's the definition response from academia. And she said something like, "Oh, that's a little too wordy and stupid for me."
Oh, you want me to read something?
Whoa. This was not part of our social agreement.
Yeah. Real quick, I got a few scribbles points here. Is wokeism, it sounds like one way it could function is as an excuse, and that could almost be like a debate, is do you believe them when they say that they're just trolling, or are they actually incompetent? And that kind of ties with the mystery thing, because I feel like the more competent they are, the more of a mystery it would be, and the less competent they are, the less of a mystery it would be. And then you're like, yeah, because if you look around, it feels like a lot of incompetence to me. Velma is a terrible show. The new Star Trek is terrible. So much stuff is unwatchable, literally unwatchable. And so then that's then it kind of feels like it is just an excuse. Anything they try and say of trolling or whatever feels more I almost don't believe that. I think that they're just because of some of the ways that the wokeism works with the diversity hires, they end up hiring people who aren't ready for the job yet, kind of get leveled up out of a pool that wants to be hired that's way smaller than the pool would normally be looking for talent. Gets whittled down to this tiny little pool of possible diversity hires. You pick one out, they're not ready, and then they kind of do terrible work. And that's kind of where we're at now, is more of a cycle of that. But I kind of don't get why that once, it seems like that would mean they would lose money and then that would stop. But that is not happening. And so,
and we've solved some of that too, right? Because we know that there's a lot of funding out there, a lot of grants that they can tap into that allow them to run at a loss, right? And I mean, they just canceled a massive Batman movie with Michael Keaton and tons of stuff. What's his name?
Ezra Miller.
Yeah, no, not Ezra Miller.
Ben Affleck.
No. He was from The Mummy, the original The Mummy.
Oh, Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, Brendan Fraser,
Oh, yeah.
Michael Keaton. And I mean, like, they had a huge cast for it. They'd already put millions into this, and they canceled it so that they could use it as a tax write-off, right? So at least that's part of the story that's been floating. So, I mean, like, there's one, I think they are able to run at a loss because they can use it for tax refunds. They can have a show bomb and fail because oftentimes they need to slim down everything anyway, right? So like these entertainment industry or these entertainment companies, they build up and 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 build up so that they can take the 5 best and cancel everything else. Like, do you remember when Fox canceled almost their entire lineup, and they had like Firefly, and they had a Star Trek show that they were doing, and they had like all these A-list shows, and they canceled everything, right? And except for Family Guy, apparently. But you know, they're able to do that because they're constantly trying to trim the fat.
Not only that, but they're also going after the ESG money, which helps them operate at a loss as well.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah, ESGs are weird. I don't fully understand them, but that's definitely part of it.
So yeah, I mean, they have a lot of leeway to basically be, you know, assholes.
I heard someone say that, and this is another one I don't fully understand, but they said it's almost, you could call it the final stages of capitalism or post-capitalism, where capitalism works so well, it like works and it's good, but it works so well that people get so rich that money doesn't matter anymore, and then you've effectively created communism because of all the wealth you've created. And that feels like a little bit like what's happening.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, look at the housing market.
I was going to say, I'm not feeling all this wealth yet.
Yeah. let me know when it kicks in, you know?
Right.
There was a villain that was asked, and I can't, oh no, I'm going to butcher, I shouldn't have even brought it up because I can't remember the villain and I'm going to butcher the saying. But he was asked, like, when is enough power enough, right? When is enough? And I don't know, maybe he was asked, when is enough wealth enough? And he said, wealth isn't about money. Wealth is about control. So when do you ever have enough control?
That would support towards that kind of centralized vector where the powerful want more and more.
You were waiting for us to bring this back around to your one world government.
Yeah, one world flat Earth.
Yeah. It all ties together.
It all ties together. Yeah. No, it's been difficult watching all these things come out because it actually feels like the less of a mystery it is, the more the other side digs in, right? So when you start explaining it to people, and this is actually where I came to the conclusion that, you know, logic, these people didn't make their choices based on logic. So logic is not going to get them out of it. It's not going to change their mind, right?
That's why I don't engage with any of them on Twitter anymore. I used to defend my position or, you know, my thoughts on the matter, and it never gets you anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's but at the same time, it's like you leave a hill undefended, they will take it. Right? So you we're still stuck having to defend this and to push back on it and to be, you know, the one person standing against the torrent of what this is until it starts to turn.
I hear you, because, you know, as a good communicator, I sometimes feel like it's my obligation to say something and to put it well, you know, but the problem becomes it's very wearying because there seem to be an endless supply of the idiots.
Unfortunately, yeah. And we're never going to, I think, Narwhal, you were saying earlier, like, we've had this forever. We're never going to get rid of these people. It's never going to be where we are. There's never going to be a time where we have unshackled freedom to just do whatever it is we want to do anymore. this is the life now. Like, this is life now. There's people who, after, the draft happened and that kind of stuff, they came to, like in World War I and II, they had to have come to the conclusion that this is my life now. Like, I'm here, I'm, over on the front lines, or I'm in a factory making stuff for the war effort, right? We are going to be broke until things change globally, right? Like, this is my life now. And I feel like, because this just continues to show that we're never going to get rid of it, like, we kind of need to buckle down on this. It is our life now.
We have no response. That was perfect.
Do you have a clip of the guy saying, "What you just said was the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and everyone here is now dumber for having heard you say it"? Have you seen that?
Billy
I've got
Madison.
to find that.
Yeah, you need that one too.
Well, we've also got this one from SmilingBandito.
I win. There is no rebuttal.
Yeah, nice.
I get to say that often, I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mostly because somehow I keep finding myself on the side of the topic that is the natural
Order.
order
okay.
of things. And then I always
going to tease you about ego, but okay, I guess.
and then I always have the best partner. So it's it always falls to that.
Oh, Bandito.
Yeah.
You need Samurai, don't you?
The one guy who didn't show up tonight. Damn it.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
You know what? This would be a good opportunity then to pivot here and look at what Narwhal's got in store for us with his campaign that is currently in its sign-up phase. And what I can do here is
let us open up the mystery of why Narwhal's even here.
I have actually way more prepared today. I've got it not only shared, but all I had to do is press one button instead of fumbling around like a boomer. So you know what? I'm gonna move him up so people can see him when he's talking about his book that's coming out named Cerberus. What can you tell us? Oh, and you can see I've already signed up. If you look at the screen there, it says I don't need to do that right now because I have.
Oh, cool. Yeah, your doc's in your email. That's okay though. Email Dojo Kun, give him some movie recommendations, everyone.
Oh yeah, the email account is Dojo Kun Comics. So yeah, that's common knowledge.
Nice. Yeah, I'm almost at 500 signups, that's the most signups I've ever gotten, which is good. Good sign of interest. I'm always curious what project will hit. This one I got to work with Monica McCagney, who's famous for working with Vaughn Klaus doing Monster MD, which is a great book. Monica's awesome. And there's a little art there, and I'm sharing the cover too. You can throw up at any point you want to on my screen. Do you know how to do that, Dojo?
Oh, sure. Yep.
Yeah. And then, there's the cover. I can zoom in a little bit, make this go away. Yeah. And it's kind of like an 80s animated movie, but in a comic form. It's a mystery. Lee Button is the main dog, and his owner gets murdered by another dog. So he's kind of trying to solve that mystery, figure out what's going on.
Is this a sequel to Oliver and Company?
No, but it could be. I was really channeling a little bit of the 101 Dalmatians, kind of as far as the rules of the universe. There's a good.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
There's a big B plot with humans, and the animals, you can see Pete the mouse or the rat, his nose is glowing. Their senses are kind of like superpowers, but they'll each have a specific superpower. So one of the things they do is they eavesdrop on the humans as much as they can to see, because they know that the humans are trying to solve the mystery too. So they're eavesdropping on the FBI and stuff. And they do find out that the dog that killed it does have a human owner. So there's kind of these parallel narratives of the human mystery and then the animal mystery. And
so if you go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't want to give away too much.
Yeah, right. If you go along the lines of following Oliver and Company, you got to get Billy Joel to voice the Dodger.
There we go.
That was awesome. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the sign up page. And the reason for that is let me go over to the sign up page. So you talk, oh, so Lee Button is the German Shepherd on the cover. Okay. And you told us about that part. So yes, but the art, you know, he's given us an example of the art. And I've heard that, I think you said her name is Monica, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's very professional to work with, right?
Yeah, she is. She's awesome.
There's
a bunch of CGers working with her. Well, not a bunch, but I'm trying to think. Oh, I can't think of that. But Vaughn, me, and a couple others for sure kind of work with her whenever we can.
Excellent. How then do you present the script to her? Is it more of the Marvel method, or do you have a very specific blocking and camera angles and all that? How does that work with you?
Yeah, good question. Because I'd previously just written for myself where I just do it as a movie script, and then I thumbnail it from that, and then I know the page breakdowns and the panels from that, so I kind of switch and go off of the thumbnails from that point. But with her, I asked her, I was curious just even how she worked with artists, and she gave me a sample of what Vaughn had sent her, and he does panel breakdowns with camera angles and dialogue, and then page breakdowns. And so the script just is all that, like page 1, panel 1, here's what we see, here's what they're saying. Panel 2, so I converted the script because this was originally a movie script too. And it took a while, but I just kind of go through and picture it in my head and convert it without outlining it. And that worked pretty good with her. And it took a while for me to kind of get used to it, but I'm getting more and more like good at collaborating in that way with an artist. I think at first I was a little bit too like controlling kind of, but it's so good. The more freedom you give her, the better anyway, kind of thing. So.
Okay. All right. See, I'm #JustAWriter, and so are Jake, and I think Bandito is too, right? You're not an artist, Bandito?
Bandito went to get a burrito.
A delicious burrito. A Bandito burrito.
Full of Frito.
Oh. So yeah, are we like? Sorry, I did actually just step away. Are we like?
Okay. No, I was asking if you also were #JustAWriter.
Yeah, sort of.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
I think that Jake and I have very similar styles to what Narwhal was just suggesting. Is that we do page 1, panel 1. Here's what's being seen from what angle and what's being said.
Yeah.
Occasionally, oh yeah, okay, I thought so. Occasionally, I will give some leeway. In fact, I tell the artists right from the start, I might tell you that there are 6 panels on this page, but if you think 5 is more effective, I can work with that, and I'll just get with the letterer afterward to rearrange where things are being said or how. I think that one thing that we're alluding to here is that the artist is just as much a storyteller as the writer is, and I think that a good collaboration between the two makes all the difference. So
sometimes, I mean, if you are going to open up that topic,
we are going to debate again. I like it.
Yeah. So when it comes to the medium, what you want to make sure is that you have the person who is the most capable and the highest qualified, and then you have to expect that they're not going to get the job done. And you have to be okay with that, because eventually, you have to allow for certain magic to kind of take place where things that you didn't consider before are going to come out. And, there has to be a certain amount of freedom for other ideas to refine the work that you're doing. However, there is a magic in the story that you're trying to tell that the other person is never going to be as in tune with as you are. Because it is the same as I've learned as being an employer with my own company. Nobody is going to be as invested with your business as much as the person who owns the business. So you're not going to have an employee who wants to spend 10 hours a day doing the work and just getting paid an hourly wage, right? You're not getting paid an hourly wage, which is why you're invested as a business owner. You're not getting paid an hourly wage, which is why you're invested all that much more in the work that you're doing, right? So it is inappropriate to expect that same kind of attention and detail from an artist who isn't directly connected with the story as the writer is. It is inappropriate. It's inappropriate for the artist to believe that they can take leeway with a story that they themselves are not directly connected to.
Well, what do you mean by leeway? Like,
so leeway being
in the art itself?
Leeway being if they change things like the narrative or something like that.
I think that would come from the writer more than the actual artist. Then,
it has to come from the art or from the writer, right? So
yeah, there's been like some horror stories where the artist might do that. That happened to what's her name, she's like a dancer that sort of went CG for a little bit. Martina Marcota. Do you guys remember that?
Yes.
Oh yeah, she's still around.
Yeah, but yeah, with her project, the artist went rogue and then sued her for her own project. It's terrible.
Yeah. Tried to actually steal her identity is actually what he was trying to do. He was trying to make it because the character in her book was based off of her character that she had on stage, which is based upon because she was a burlesque dancer. It was based upon her likeness. So the artist tried to steal the character, which essentially would be stealing her likeness, and could even, because everything was connected to the burlesque, could even go on to steal her past work that she had done. So yeah, that was a massive but so, and now having said all that, I try to give as much freedom and room for the artist to do something interesting and fun, because I'm not an artist, right? Like I can't draw. I can't create that visual magic the way that the artist does, right? But whenever there's something particular that the writer needs, where it's just like, this is the language of the medium, you have this image here in this way because later on it's going to be referenced, right? And you need those things to all line up. There shouldn't be any argument from the artist. But that's absolutely. Just on me.
Yeah. The person who's writing it has that all in mind. Somebody asks me, what have you got coming up? I can tell you that if I do this right, I've got about 10 years worth of scripts prepared. So, with that in mind, I'm not going to give you so much leeway that you're going to change the path that these are going to take.
But I think the medium. Oh, sorry.
I will give you leeway in as much as what the camera angle will be most of the time.
Sure.
Right. Or the number of panels. Or, I say that, this is an open panel. I don't want borders on this one. They make it a closed border, but they make a different one that has a better shot in open panel. I will not, quibble about that if it's because, like you just alluded to, I'm not an artist and they may have a better eye for that.
Also, that idea of them being being a storyteller, I hope they tell me when they read something just like, this is stupid. Like I need to hear that stuff too. Right. So,
yeah. I forget which book. I think it was Nemesis. It's a Mark Millar book from like 2012. And the sequel might be out now or it's coming out soon. And I read that one. And in the back of the book was samples of his script that he had shared with the artist. And it was like what you guys are saying, but even it might be different too, depending if you're working with like a world-class artist. His scripts were still kind of minimalist. Like it said panels like big badass bird's eye shot where we're seeing all this badass shit happen. And this guy says this. Then panel 2, like close up of his saying this. And then panel 3, reverse shot this. Like that's all he was saying really quickly, like kind of. And then the artist, of course, knocks it out of the park, whatever he says, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
And for the most part, I mean, like, I'm kind of, this is the only a writer or just another artist debate. I'm speaking, I don't know, fairly, what's the word?
Broadly?
Detrimental. It's the approach sounds somewhat detrimental to having a good working relationship. But I've always found that for the artists that I work with, that we always have a really good working environment. As long as we can get over that one hurdle of, okay, don't forget this is my production. So.
Right.
You ever ran into anything like that where they tried to take over with ideas?
Well, I've worked with a couple of names where one time, so I guess if we're going to tell stories, the artist that I'm friends with here in Calgary, he did all the work for Dark Horse Comics for the Star Wars series that they had. Okay. He did like, I think 3 Star Wars series for them. And he's now been doing, in his retirement, he's been doing a lot of indie comics and that kind of stuff. And he and I had talked for years about doing a production, and we both were kind of on the same page with everything as far as our attitude towards, you know, what indie comics could be and whatnot. And I sent him a script. He did 3 pages for me, and I went through it and I red penned it. And I was just like, this, right? These things have to be X, whatever my, and I'm not saying my changes were legitimate or not. He wrote back to me and just like, dude, I don't think we can do this. I was just like, really? Like, no one's ever asked you to edit anything? He was like, no, not really. And I was just like, huh.
Wow.
So, yeah. And I was just like, okay, I have to kind of rethink this. And so, I mean, like, of course, going into comics for writing and stuff, it's an education, right? And sometimes we got to listen to the feedback that's coming back and understand if we are being a little heavy-handed or not.
Well, if he had never been edited in the past, that's almost like your mom always told you could sing. Why is it that nobody lets you pass the audition?
A little bit like that. Also, I think everything is a little bit paint by the numbers. I was actually going to say this a little bit earlier when I was interrupting you, Brian. I think the industry works against us a little bit, because his comment to me at one point was, this isn't a movie. We're not trying to make something that the production value isn't trying to be on the same level as a movie. I was just like, you know, I totally get that, because I have a stack of independent comics sitting here beside me, and they're all mediocre, right? Like, the quality in it is just passable. It's like every single one is a monthly issue of something that was on the shelf. And as much as that nostalgia, as much as I loved going every month and picking those up, I realized that the product I was trying to make is like a movie. Like, I am trying to get that production value into the book. And I don't know if that's because of my own perception, or when I look around in Comicsgate and we kind of see the level of quality that some of the books have come out here are.
Like Jake's.
Yeah, or the...
Sovereign Wolf.
Or and I mean, you just look at what, like, everyone, like, and I mean all across the board. I'm not picking any favorites here. You look at what Ethan has done with Wreck Planet. You look at what Gat has done with Bullet Maker. I mean, like, these are thick books with amazing talent that are behind it, right? So the idea of putting out a monthly on a campaign, just, you know, I was just like, huh, you know, there's a shift in how we develop this that I think, you know, wasn't quite there for Dario Carrasco Jr., for those who want to look him up, who does amazing work. The Star Wars series, the one that he did, it was the Sith something or other. Anyway, Jedi Tales was the one of the first series that he did, but Tales of the Jedi, that's what it was called. The perception and how we do things ends up becoming the relationships that we end up making with other people, which I can actually roll this right into my final thoughts on this whole wokeism thing.
Go for it.
The discussion of wokeism kind of takes a lot of energy and fortitude to even approach and engage in, when you realize how dug in the opposing forces can be. Why are there people who are trying to establish, you know, such detrimental conditions to the very arguments that they are claiming to value. It seems like madness until you realize they may genuinely believe what they are saying, which then removes all doubt of the madness they live within. What I believe it truly boils down to, on all levels of our culture, is that we're trying to exchange interpretive viewpoints to ratchet up our status. The objective viewpoint has to be discarded in order to maintain a personal value. We do this because we are competing for what truly is a finite resource in acceptance. And the most finite resource is in our own personal interpretation. And there's a truism where when it comes to betrayal, the greatest betrayal doesn't come from friends, it doesn't come from family, it doesn't come from the people around us. It comes from when we've betrayed ourselves. And so once we've dug into something, we can't get out because we can't admit to ourselves that we have ultimately betrayed ourselves. And I think the religion of wokeism is so encompassing that nobody can allow themselves to be the first one to step out of it. And that's why I think it's still a mystery.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait a second. You think it's still a mystery?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think it's still a mystery.
This whole time you've been debating undercover.
Yeah, I completely concede the point.
But didn't you win? I thought you won the debate.
We did. We won the debate, but these are my final thoughts. They are two completely separate things. Just understand, logic didn't get me to this point, so logic isn't going to get me out of it.
Great. Oh, that was perfect. All right. Perfect. So, yeah, we're coming up to the top of the hour. Of course, I want to thank those of you who are here in the chat for your participation. Those of you who watch it on the replay, thank you so much for giving us your time. I want to thank Bionic Bra, Jake, and SmilingBandito for being here. Please check out Cobalt, Death Stalks Us. That's Jake's book. It's amazing, painterly art, great storyline. I can't wait to get that one in my hands. SmilingBandito's new book that he's got in sign-up phase right now, Black as Hell. Given how verbose and just, with his ideas and years of experience in, critiquing comics, and those of us who are in the comic industry, I think it ought to be, top notch. And of course, for our guest, Narwhal, thank you so much for being here. And everybody go out there and sign up for Cerberus, the story of the detective dog who's going to find out who murdered his owner. Thank you so much for being here, everyone, and we'll catch you later.
Yeah.
Hail and well met.
There we go.